who watched somebody be resurrected from the dead. So it does still happen today, but not very often. Most of us don't even think to pray for it. But there were people in the Bible who were resurrected, a few of them actually, and most of them kind of fall in the category of provider, where if they were to die, somebody else would suffer. So 3 times a widow's son was raised from the dead because the widow would have had no protection and no provision without them. But what this one reminds me of is the one time that was different, and that's the story of Jairus' daughter. So Jairus was a synagogue leader who came to Jesus when Jesus was preaching and teaching, and it seems like he was waiting to get Jesus' attention because his daughter was quite sick. And while Jesus was teaching, one of his servants came up to him and says, "Don't bother the teacher. Your daughter's dead." Jesus seems to overhear this and says, No, don't worry. Just believe and she'll be healed. So the two of them go together to Jairus' house, and when they get there, the mourners are already there weeping. And Jesus tells them, she's only sleeping, which makes them laugh because it's so unbelievable. But Jesus goes up to the upper room, clears it out of everyone but the parents and Peter, and says to the little girl, "Talitha cum," which means, "Little girl, get up." And she does. And I can't think of any reason that little girl was healed, not to provide, not to protect, only because she was beloved. And so that story comes to mind when you think of Tabitha, because Tabitha also probably wasn't providing protection for anyone. Maybe she was providing in other ways, but she is called, or Peter is called to her bedside to raise her up, not for how productive she is, but for how loved she is, how beloved she is. And I wonder what Peter thought, too, having these men show up at his door saying, "Hey, could you come with us? This lady died." Because this far up to the book of Acts, we have seen miracle after miracle after miracle. Earlier in Acts chapter 9 is where Saul encounters Jesus in this bright light. He has a dream and he's blinded. After that, Ananias, another disciple, is given a dream, a vision of an angel who comes to him and says, "Hey, I need you to heal Paul." Peter, meanwhile, is being prompted by the Spirit to go these different places and heal people. So we have all of these great messages from God, and now this very normal, very ordinary knock on the door says, "Come with me." Did any part of him say, "No, I'm going to wait for God's real prompting, the big things. I want an angel, I want a vision, I want a dream"? Or did he know that those 2 men were God's voice to him as well? I wonder as he traveled there if he thought, "I guess I'm going to preach at a funeral. Some nice lady, I don't know what's going on." Or I wonder if he knew. But as these women greet him at the door, showing off what Tabitha had made for them, weeping and proving to him how beloved he is, this happens. Peter sent them all out of the room, and they got down on his knees and prayed. Turning toward the dead woman, he said, "Tabitha, get up." She opened her eyes, and seeing Peter, got up. He took her by the hand and helped her to the feet. Then he called for the believers, especially the widows, and presented to her alive. This reminds me of Jairus' story, not only because they were both beloved, they were both found in the upper room, but also the words. Jesus said, "Talitha cum," little girl, get up. And Peter said, "Tabitha cum," Tabitha, get up. 1 letter difference. But both of them are raised from the dead. And I love that Tabitha was worthy of being resurrected. Not because she was a Lazarus, a best friend of Jesus who would go on to have a mighty ministry. Not because she was providing for anyone, but because she was so beloved by the church that they couldn't imagine life without her. And when they tried to describe her, the only thing they could say is, "She is always doing good works and helping the poor." And I wonder about Tabitha. Did she ever kind of have a embarrassment about what other people would call ministry? Did she ever downgrade it and diminish it? So when people said, "Oh, you're getting together with the widows," she went, No, it's just coffee with friends." Or, "Oh, what beautiful things you sewed." "Oh, it's just a hobby." Did she ever diminish what she was doing? Or did other people ever overlook her or patronize her for her little sewing projects? Was she ever dismissive of her role in the church? Did that ever happen? Or did she stand tall knowing that she was a Matthias, that she was a disciple? And did the church honor her as such? Because if they diminished her, shame on them, because this is what happened. This became known all over Joppa, and many people believed in the Lord. Now, I'm sure they're talking about the resurrection. That's what people heard about in Joppa. But I'll tell you this. If it was a schmuck that they resurrected, nobody would come to know the Lord because of it. They would have been annoyed, probably. Her testimony mattered here. That it was Tabitha, this woman known for doing good works, is what led people to believe in the Lord. So, God used her mightily. And I think of this for Serve because it's easy to downgrade our work. What did we do? We raked a lot of pine needles. By day 3, we're thinking, Whitehorse hates pine needles. Did it matter? I don't know. But our prayer is the same as this, that those works would be known all over Whitehorse and many people would believe in the Lord. And we got a little bit of a unique opportunity. Everyone left on Saturday, but we were from the farthest away, and there are just not a lot of flights between Whitehorse and Winnipeg, so we had to stay an extra day. And on that extra day, we did some tourism, and one of the things we did is we got on a tour bus to see a wildlife preserve. And one of the other people on the bus was making conversation, who are you, where are you from? And so we said, we're with the Serve team, we did a bunch of volunteer projects, and she said, oh, I think there was someone on our street that got that. And she told us the street, probably us, I don't know who else is doing this. She goes, they were amazing. My neighbor just loved having them there. They painted her deck, they fixed her fence, they did all of these things. I just couldn't believe how wonderful they were. Where did you say you were from? And we got to tell her. Well, we're associated with Riverdale Baptist Church, our sister church there. They do this kind of thing. And she went, I'm going to have to look them up. How neat to find someone, not someone we directly helped, but somebody whose neighbor was helped, who heard of those good deeds and is going to look up a church because of us. Or Friday, our last day, where we got to work with Muriel, the widow who needed some help there. She thought we were a group of school teachers because of her neighbor's role in school. So when she found out we weren't, and she asked, well, where are you from? We said, oh, this Serve group, we're associated with a church. And she said, what church? Well, Riverdale Baptist. And she just laughed and said, well, of course it's Riverdale Baptist. They're always doing things like that. I loved that. I thought, what a wonderful reputation for a church to have. They're always doing good things like that. And so we got to see a little bit of that work, and we're hoping and praying that more will happen. One of my favorite writers, N.T. Wright, says this: there's no such thing as a small errand in the kingdom of God. So whether it's raking pine needles or sewing dresses or getting to know the widows or helping out, God is doing great things through these. And when you read the book of Acts, most of it is about these great men doing great things as they're planting churches and writing gospels and epistles and raising people from the dead. But they make for great stories. But we forget that behind every one of those are these little churches we only get glimpses of. The church in Joppa, full of Tabithas who do good works and help the poor. The church in Lydda, who gave up a room so that Peter had a place to stay there. The church in Philippi, the church in Antioch, all of these churches of faithful men and women like Tabitha, who were just known for doing good works, for loving one another. And maybe one day Willowlake Church will send out missionaries who will bring God's healing and light to Canada North, or be peacemakers in Myanmar, or plant churches throughout Russia, and that would be wonderful. But doing great things for God doesn't always mean doing things that make the headlines. Sometimes it means having a testimony, so when the headlines happen, they mean something. Sometimes they mean obedience to God, even in the little things, because small acts of faithfulness become great in God's kingdom. Another writer said this: Dorcas, I've been calling her Tabitha, who's often overlooked in our conversations, was of the utmost importance in the story of the early church, so much so that her life was worthy of resurrection. And my prayer is that our testimony would be like hers, that we would be known for doing good works, for loving well, for helping the poor. My prayer is that one day people in Southdale will hear about Willowlake Church and laugh like Muriel did and say, well, of course it's Willowlake. They're always doing good things like that. But there's another person in the story that I wish we would be like, and that's the widows. If they hadn't advocated, if they hadn't asked the church for an intervention and sent someone to Peter, if they hadn't showed up when Peter is saying, look what Tabitha's done, look how much we love her, would we have the story? Sometimes we need to do that for each other. Sometimes we need to say, look what this person's done. When they organize this, they don't know the impact it has on my family. Look at what this person did. When they make coffee, they don't know the impact it is, not only on me waking up to get to church, but on the community that gathers. It gives us an excuse to hold a mug and talk, and we need that. We need to shout out to the little things we see each other doing and say, this matters, and that you are beloved, and that you belong here, and we would miss you if you were gone. The book of Hebrews talks about this. It says, let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. And I think of Tabitha being raised from the dead, and after that, did she think, I only have one life. I got to go, guys. I've got vacations to take and places to see. I've got to spend this money and live my life. My guess is no. My guess is she woke up and said, what just happened? And they said, these women were here calling for a miracle because they love you so much for your good works and how you care for them. My guess is she sewed a few more tunics. My guess is she did a little more helping the poor. My guess is she got together with those widows a bit more often because she was being spurred on toward love and good deeds. And that's what we're called to do as well, to spur each other on. And I feel like this church did that with the youth group, spurring us on to take the step of faith, to go and serve there. But we want to do it for each other every day, to spur each other on for love and good works. And Hebrews continues, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another all the more as you see the day approaching. And maybe you watch a lot of news, or maybe you've cut off the news because it's never good. But sometimes it feels like we see the day approaching, maybe sooner than we think. And that can rise anxiety in us, that can rise fear in us, that can rise anger in us. But what they say to do is what it should arise is more encouraging of one another. And so let's be those kind of people, spurring one another on to action, being known for our love and good works, and having a testimony in our community that makes people come to Christ. So thank you for spurring us on to love and good works. Because of you, we took a step of faith and we feel like we saw God. And you can continue to pray that what God started in us would be brought to completion, and what God started in the city of Whitehorse with Riverdale Church would also bear good fruit. But you can also keep praying and lifting up our own community, that we here at Willowlake Church would have that kind of testimony. This week, as we bring kids, we only have 8 registered. 2 of them we've never heard of before. They just answered to a flyer, and a couple more are friends of kids that come here. So we have an opportunity to be a testimony. We want to do it out on the lawn so that people can see what we're doing, and maybe more kids will join us. And if they do, we want them to know that Willowlake Church is a safe place, that loves Jesus, and serves well. So may we continue here at Willowlake that our neighbors and our friends, our communities would say, well, of course Willowlake was doing that. They're always doing those kind of good things. May our light shine here as it did in Joppa. And may we, like Tabitha, have that kind of testimony where others come to faith because of our light. Let's pray. God, sometimes we look for great things, and sometimes you call us to great things. When you do that, may we answer yes. But Lord, may we also remember that there are no small errands in your kingdom. And when you ask us to do small things, may we say yes to those as well. And may we, like Tabitha, have a testimony that changes our city because of how people see of how we live. May we spur one another on to good works that you might be glorified in and through us. Amen. I'm going to call the worship team up. We're going to sing an old hymn called He Leadeth Me, trusting that God leads us every day. And this is a song my grandma used to sing to me before I'd fall asleep. And when she moved away, she made a tape of songs so I could listen to the tape of her singing to me. So I have good memories of this. And she was somebody who lived a very humble life, but many people came to Christ through her ministry too. And so we're asking God to lead us, whether that's a big thing or whether that's a small thing. So would you stand with me and sing, He Leadeth Me.
His faithful follower I would be, for by His hand He leadeth me. Lord, I would clasp my hand in Thine, nor ever murmur, nor repine, content whatever lot I see, since 'tis my God that leadeth me. He leadeth me by His own hand. He leadeth me. His faithful follower I would be, for by His hand He leadeth me. And when my task on earth is done, when by Thy grace the victory's won, being death's bold wave I will not flee, since God through Jordan leadeth me. He leadeth me by His own hand. He leadeth me. His faithful follower I would be, for by His hand He leadeth me.
Thank you. You may be seated. Well, as our service is coming to a close almost, thank you to the worship team, and what a good message that was. Thank you, Pastor Kirsten. We're going to go for our prayer for the congregation, so we're going to be saying goodbye to the online worshipers, and we hope to see you soon, but if not, please follow us online.